Hello, welcome back, and happy Friday to you guys. I cannot wait to introduce you to my guest today. This is somebody I met almost 5 years ago. And on this podcast, my mission is to bring you anyone that can help you better yourself, find your truth, get connected to the spirit within, and unapologetically show up as the leading character in your life. And one of the things that I did for myself in the beginning of 2018 was I had an appointment with someone that gave me the permission to accept parts of myself that I had shame around for all of my life up until that point. So without further ado, I want to share with you all the knowledge, the wisdom, and the beauty that Dr. Beth Golden has to offer. Welcome to my podcast and Champagne Channeling, Beth. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great reunion. I'm so excited for the opportunity.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So when we first met, and you're going to have to help me remember this, but it was at an event where I think you were using, is it the tuning forks?
Oh, they're like energy divining rods. They're like divining rods to show our energy and how when we think positively, our energy feels really large. And when we're negative, it's really small, which doesn't give us enough cushion in life.
Yes.
And it was, may I use names?
Of course. Yes, of course.
It was at Nancy Otino's. It was a Christmas event up in Fort Collins.
Yes. And so this was in 2018. I knew I was empathic. I knew I was psychic. I had a little bit of knowledge around like energy, how it worked at that point, no idea or interest in mediumship. So I've come a long way in 4 years. But when I saw that, it was a beautiful example and kind of initiated the snowball effect for me to lean into this work. But these metal things that you were holding, you simply were standing, I believe, like 15 to 20 feet away from somebody and asked them to have negative thoughts and positive thoughts. And we watched how they opened with positive thoughts and then closed with negative thoughts from that far away, meaning our energies can affect people from that far away. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I would also have someone walk towards me. So it'd be, 100 yards apart. And if they were thinking negatively, they would close, but people would get really close too. Yeah. And then I'd have them go back. And when they thought positive, they opened and they were really far away. So it just shows how expansive your energy field is. And, I get claustrophobic. So when I'm around too many people too close, it bothers me. Mm-hmm. It makes me anxious. And part of that is being in all these people's energy fields. And so when you're aware of that, it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. There's just too much happening here.
Yeah. Yes. And that's something that just, I say empaths, but I really do feel like all of us on some level are experiencing on an everyday basis and don't have knowledge around it, don't know how to protect ourselves.
Right.
So thank you for that introduction. But what I really, really dove into, so I fell in love with Beth. We sat next to each other. She had bright red lipstick on. I believe I probably did too. And we just sort of connected right away energetically.
Yes.
And then she was the speaker at this event. I did not know, but of course, leave it to me to sit by the main speaker. And she taught us about something that's called the Ultimate Life Tool. And it is an assessment that I'm going to actually let her tell you more about how they gather what they gather. But through that assessment, my life changed. So please tell us what it is. And as you do that, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to open some champagne.
Oh, of course. How could I ever mind? You have to be in a celebratory mood.
Absolutely. I hope you're joining us with a beautiful beverage this evening.
I have a beautiful beverage here. So.
Oh my gosh, and a beautiful glass.
Yes, of course. I'm on your show. You think I'm going to do anything other than that?
I love it.
The Ultimate Life Tool technology is an assessment. There are a lot of assessments that are psychometric, like Myers-Briggs. So it's about your mindset and your brain and how you function. This is a physiometric tool. So when you took the assessment, Jennifer got to take it again last night. Did it remind you that the questions were kind of different?
Absolutely. So I didn't remember the questions. And so you guys have to remember, this was like what, 4.5 years ago or yeah.
Yep.
So this was a long time ago. I remembered Beth. I fell in love with Beth, but I didn't remember the actual assessment. I just remembered the impact it had once the results came in. So last night when I was taking it, I kept wondering when we were going to get to the like psychology questions. And it was very, I don't know if you want me to give it away or what they were, but yeah, like some of them were like, what size are your eyes? Small, medium, or large? And it's like, what's that going to tell you? About what, there's another one I thought was quite funny that I'm like, what information can you gain from this question? And so, yes, they're very unique.
They're primarily about your physicality. When you put on weight, where do you put it on?
Yes.
So they'll give, I don't gain weight, I put it on my stomach, or it's my hips, my thighs, it talks about hair color. It talks about your physicality, because we're not here on accident. Our spirits are inhabiting these bodies. We had a contract to come into the world with our parents and where we're going to live and what we're going to do and what our purpose is. And we always say, man might make mistakes, but God doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you learn to be able to look at somebody and know their potential for behavior, you're better able to support them, your spouse, significant others, your children, coworkers, and it gives you a cutting edge in communication. But first, of course, the most important one is to know how you tick. And the reason that is so that when you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, and you're pegging the meter in a way that you know how to get back in alignment and get grounded as soon as possible, because that static affects everyone around us. Now, the other thing is women are in charge of all relationships in life. And I get several responses. It's like, yeah, that's true. And then it's like, shit, I have to be responsible for something else, or, I never thought about that. But you have to figure we have a lot of influence, and we tend to be, even if we're more aggressive in nature, we tend to be peacemakers and putter-togethers and networkers, and in your household. And so it's actually a benefit to know that and to own it and to use it to your benefit and to the benefit of those around you.
I love that we get to reconnect and have these conversations, because I know so much more than I did 4.5 years ago. And what I have taught my clients over and over, because I really have been called to work with a lot of the feminine energetics, and it just piggybacks what you said, is we are meant to be emotional leaders, not emotional laborers. And we are recovering from a huge codependent time frame, which is still lingering. And we need to bring awareness that I will not emotionally labor for you, my husband, my children, whoever it may be, but I will emotionally lead. Let me heal myself, and please follow if it's an energy match.
Right. And it's also beautiful because it sets really healthy boundaries. So instead of being like in the Bible, it says, let your yes be a yes and your no be a no. Well, and it's still the same thing. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work for me. Can we do this? So you're not saying no in a harsh way. You're saying, no, that's not going to work for me. Let's create a solution that will.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it softens the edges. And I always say, it's really important to get what you want, but you might as well get what you want in a win-win manner.
Yeah.
Everybody wants what they want. So.
But how many of us don't believe that we deserve it, right? Like so many people don't even allow themselves to dream big. I think you and I have a similarity where we do, though.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you're talking about that, and it's like, it takes a while to grow into who you are. It just is part of where you are on the wheel of life and what you will and won't accept from others. But if you're single, it helps you make really well-informed choices.
Yes.
And their choices, you might get fooled over a certain thing in relationships, but that's the learning portion of it. Oh, well, I get it. I'm not going to do that again. It usually takes me 2 times for that to clear itself. But oh yeah, I didn't recognize that pattern. But
Yeah. We have blind spots for sure.
yeah. So it really helps you make great choices in partners, in work, and if you have a housemate or a roommate, the environment in which you live and work. I'm in the process right now of interviewing for jobs. And I know that I have to work in a beautiful surroundings. Otherwise, I'll be miserable and my energy will be drained. And a lot of people might not know that, but they go home and they're tired and grouchy. Well, because you work in the freaking DMV and there are no windows and you have so many people, So we'll explain why that's important, and we'll talk about one of my favorites is a vanity feature and why that's important. So why don't you share what happened to you when we discussed that the first time?
Yes. Okay. So this was the pivotal moment. There was a lot of great information, but this is what took me down a rabbit hole. And thank goodness at that time, Beth and I lived in the same location. So I was sitting in front of her when she told me this information and she was able to soothe me. But the way that this assessment puts it is, I think that it was my driving force, or
yes.
The driving
yes.
force. So we have certain things about us that are going to give us the most energy, that are going to be the most important to us, that we respond to. And mine was vanity. And I started to cry because I felt like vanity was related to being vain. And I also had a history of not really being supported for my attraction to the finer things in life. I came from a little bit more of humble beginnings. We didn't have the money to buy nice things, but I really craved them. Like, I really wanted them. I was attracted to them visually. I felt good when I would have something nice, and I never got the permission that was okay. I carried a lot of shame around it. And what that did to me for a lot of my life is it stifled my ability to manifest. And I am a master manifester. And when I did this assessment and learned how I work, how I tick, everything started to completely come in. Like, you watched through our house build.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that was not the plan. And now the house we live in is very aesthetically pleasing. Was the road, you never worry about the how, you just worry about the what. And I got permission from Beth through this assessment that the what was very important to me. Therefore, our build went through 2 contractors, a lawsuit, and took 3 years. But now I'm here, and it is everything that we dreamed of.
Isn't that amazing? Now, it's interesting how you have conversations and you say things. It's like, oh, ding. The other thing is this assessment tells you what you are versus who you are. So who you are is your resume, where you've worked, your parents, where you go to school. That's who you are, all those things that have influenced you. But what you are is based in your physicality, because we are in the 3rd dimension here. So we're subject to gravity, electromagnetism, and nuclear force, and how that shows up in your body and the story that it tells. So I'm going to just go over a few things real quick about the assessment itself. There are 5 components that are measured. The first are styles, and it's like your innate physical traits that we just talked about. Your skin color. Is it pale? Is it naturally dark? Do you have freckles? Is your hair curly, straight, thick, thin? Do you have, some people have kind of like square waist, some people are more curvy, some people carry their weight in their stomachs. So all those things mean something. Are you tall? Are you well proportioned? So they're your innate physical traits that make you the person you are. And there are 7 in total. And most people have 3, maybe 4. What's interesting is we're constantly evolving as humans, and the people, younger people, or not necessarily younger, are coming in, and we call them avatars because they have all spokes, or maybe 6 out of the 7. And if you have that many, you need help managing your energy and your thought processes because it's a lot going on. And so that's one thing. The other is to find your polarity. And that's whether you are positive, negative, or neutral.
Mhm.
And negative is not bad. Negative is seeing what's not working first. And that's super important if in many careers, like if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer, if you're a safety person, if you're a psychic, you want to get to the meat of the matter, you want to know like instantly, really quickly, what's not working so that you can create solutions to support yourself. Of course, positively charged speaks for itself. And neutral is you take a breath and you look at both sides. Now, Miss Jennifer is more in the neutral zone. Some people can perceive that as negative, feeling negative. And it's not that it's negative, it's in the pause. So let's say your friend's trying on a dress and they come out and, oh, do you like this dress? Well, a positive would be, yeah, that looks great on you. It's beautiful. Okay, they go back in, put on another, come out with another dress. And no, that doesn't look good on you. That doesn't suit your body. So that's a negative observance or, well, the neutral, if they come out, you're going to go before you say anything. And in that pause, most people go, oh, you don't like it. You didn't say something right away. When you're educated, that pause is beautiful. And that's part of her regal presentation too. Sitting on the throne and looking at the kingdom and what's the right and the left and what's best for the whole.
Oh my goodness, Beth. You guys, you listeners are going to learn a lot about me. And just after we get out of Leo season and my obsession with my rising sign, which is a Leo, and me doing reels on TikTok with my crown on and now being referenced as being on a throne, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to get people to unfollow me or if I'm welcoming more people to join the party.
Well, and just to, be honest, everybody has their wonderful traits. So everybody is perfect the way they are. And in this assessment, you learn the perfection of your being.
Yes.
And so you don't have to be intimidated by somebody who might have a more regal presentation because you might be like this crazy mastermind that can remember everything and is compassionate and kind and funny and so each of the spokes have something that's special and we're made up of all of them. Features is what we're talking about, those things that drive you. There are 12 in this modality, and it's like having 12 passengers in a car, but the car is your brain. So if you've driven with a bunch of kids or adults in a big van and everybody's talking, there's a lot of noise in there.
Yes.
And we only have 2 in this methodology, 2 or 3 licensed drivers. And so the assessment will show you what those are. And may I share yours?
Yes.
Okay. We talked about vanity, and vanity is one of hers. A more soft explanation is appreciating aesthetic beauty. So aesthetics are important to anyone who has vanity as one of their drivers. It's high on my list as well. And it's also expressed, which we'll get to the next thing, in conjunction with your alchemy, like what kind of environment feeds you. So somebody might be a little bit more flexible, somebody might like fancier things, but the vanity is still there. So it's expressed in how you look, how you do your makeup, what clothes you wear. But the other part is you love attention and you love being on stage. So that stage can be a one-on-one. That stage can be in front of a few people or a large amount of people. Many people are terrified of public speaking. Those of us who have vanity as their top driver, we get excited, we get nervous, but we're not afraid. We're just, we're ready to go. And then it's so fun. We get to share our wisdom. So it's something that actually feeds us. And it's the only feature that can feed itself. So if you're feeling a little bit low, You can have a manicure, a pedicure. You can go shopping. You don't have to buy anything, but just doing something that supports beauty around you feeds you.
You told me that I will be more energized by holding a beautiful pair of shoes than I will be by going to the gym. And I have never heard truer words.
I'm glad I don't remember that. I'm glad you did.
Yes, you just gave me such permission to know that I am energized by old architecture. I'm energized by a beautiful sunset. Like it doesn't always have to be extravagant material items. It can be beauty in nature. It could be beauty of a little girl running in a dress, finding Easter eggs. Like there's so much beauty in the world. It's really important to me. And it's probably why I've always loved photos.
Yeah. Well, and that was also something that your family didn't give you permission. I mean, you used to do hair, you made other people beautiful, you made yourself beautiful. So when you would dress up, it was just like, oh, you just think you're better than we are. No, maybe, but that is your essence. And that was important to you. The other thing that it did change from last time, but your other driver is called naivete, which means being super optimistic. So it's a processor. You process information at lightning speed. You process from a global perspective, like really high and seeing the whole picture. It's the reason it is naive or naivete is because you believe the best. And then if it doesn't happen or somebody treats you or says something harsh or kind of against expectation you can feel completely crushed. So you can go from like, to, oh my God, it's like somebody just stabbed me with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
And the vanity, if they are in a weak spot, they can get manipulative. So the naivete feels crushed or whiny, like, I didn't like that. And the vanity in the weak becomes manipulative in the way that I'm not getting what I need. So I'm going to go around the back end and talk to the manager and make sure that happens. Or you can get kind of
that's not manipulative, is it?
I don't think so. Again, we need to get what we want.
Yeah, there's always a way. I do love that you're talking about the positive and the shadow side, because I work with an astrologer I love, and she always likes to say the both, because we live in a duality, a polarized world. And so we need to know with these great drivers that they still can have road rage. They still can have shadow sides.
Absolutely. Because again, this is one aspect that needs to be fueled, and it's really important. So let me ask you, being regal in nature, that's one of the spokes, and it is the king and queen spoke. What happens to you, or what is your response if you are disrespected?
Oh, it's kind of a hard question, because I'm very activated and defensive if you disrespect somebody I love. But if you disrespect me, there's still a shadow side that I believe you. So I can be, maybe that's the crushed aspect of, one time I said something and I said, tell me I'm pretty and I'll thank you. Tell me I'm gorgeous and I'll weep. Meaning I can't handle the over compliments, but then I also can't handle the polarity of that, the criticism, because there's that belief of like, yes, I do agree with you. So I would be neutral. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That is it's just interesting how we express. For me, I'm also a Queenie Pooh. If I'm disrespected, and this is referring to a fairy tale, so if you find it offensive, I apologize in advance. My thought bubble will be, I will never say it, because a queen would never say it, but that doesn't mean you don't think it. It's like, off with your head. It's
Okay.
like, it's like done. I will be kind to you. I will be cordial. I'll smile and say hello. But sometimes, depending what it is, it's just like this
You're
big
dead to me. Yeah.
done.
Are you a
Done.
Scorpio?
No, but it is my North Node.
No, I think that, like, as I say this and kind of expose myself to everyone, I don't have that at all. Like, I want to dissect it. Like, if I'm in a vulnerable place, I might agree with you and kind of say, like, yeah, that's part of me, but not all of me. But if I'm in a strong place, I will wonder what I triggered in you. Like, the psychologist in me will want to understand it.
Well, and see, this shows the beauty of where we are, because one of Jennifer's spokes is called absorptive. And this is having, it is a processor as well, but it's wanting to research and absorb as much information as possible and understand. And it's passive and positive. Where I go is another processor, which is active and negative, and it's very sharp. So most of your processors are, you have 2 passive positive, 1 passive negative, and an active positive. So you're more passive positive. I'm more active. So where I go, it's sharp, and I have to be very careful because I can stab people with my words. So I have to, like, take a breath.
And how much does this relate to, like, the nervous system? Because that reminds me of, like, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And it would tell me that you're more of a fighter and to take it head on, to where I am definitely more of a freeze or a fawn.
I used to be a freeze, and I used to swallow everything. But as I have matured, and I had a scientific hand reading, and she said, when you're upset or angry, you need to express it right away. You don't need to express it in anger, but you need to bring it to people's attention. So as I've matured, I tend to say, that doesn't work. Can we revisit this? Instead of stabbing somebody with my words.
Yeah.
But that is my processor. I see what's not working first, and then how to make it better. So I will always temper, because that queen is there, and that little happy space where in the middle, that so is. And I want to be liked. So I always try to temper things, but I will make my point. So I'm nice. And sometimes I'm not. So just to go over a couple other features, the drivers, they can be creating order, which is one that I have. So I like things to be organized. I like systems. The weak side of that is manipulation. There can be monetary discernment. So some people are money magnets, and we all have all of these. It just depends on the strength of these particular things, how they show up. So money discernment is a money magnet. It can be expressed in manifesting things, or being at the right place at the right time, or always rising to the top. The weak side of that is hoarding things and hanging on and freaking out. One is compassion. One creates protection, humility, initiating change, and spontaneity. So it's fun to learn what yours is and how it lives in your being, and how you relate to other people with that. So
and how to nurture yourself and fuel what is necessary to give you the confidence that you need to accept how you show up in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is so important. I mean, just that one thing, like, opened a door for you. Just think about anybody else.
I know. I'm so excited to share you. So Beth moved away, and I haven't talked to her in years. And I was just like, what else do I want to give to you guys? Like, what helps me? And I love astrology. I mean, I love energetics. I share a lot on this podcast of people that help others, because we need help. I mean, it's a messy journey. This human experience is messy. But it occurred to me, I was like, when did I really have a shift? And I've had many in my life, but my session with you was one of them. And so I just randomly emailed her, hadn't talked in a very long time. And it was an email that she doesn't use anymore. And she logged on to find something, and there my email was right there, like within like 24 hours. And she's, because if
Yes.
it was any days later, like who knows if it would have got buried and you never would have seen it. So
And it was
spirit had
right
my
at
back. It was amazing. And so, and then I mean, that was last week, right? So it
Yeah.
happened fast, and I just can't wait, because I know my people, and they're going to jump on this. Like, who wouldn't want to know this information? It's amazing.
Right. Well, a lot of the information, it's a lot of information overload. So what I do provide for people, we do a portal. It's usually 60 to 90 minutes. It gives you a lot of time to talk. And a portal is visual, so we can do it online. We have slides for everything about you. So if you're a visual learner, that really helps.
Mm-hmm.
And then taking notes. So a lot of the things you'll just go, yeah, I know that. Yeah, I don't know that. The one thing when I took the assessment that still was I took it 12 years ago, was a huge shift for me. My husband had passed away and I was dating. And well, there are two things. I used to say, I want to be married to a single straight man who wants to be in a committed relationship resulting in marriage. Now, you can tell I said that a gazillion times, but I kept attracting men who did not want to be in a committed relationship. And so what I realized is, because he had passed away suddenly, unexpectedly, I was protecting myself. And even though I was saying something out of my mouth, my vibe was giving just the opposite off. And I was having fun, and they were good looking, and we did all kinds of wonderful things, but I didn't have to make that commitment and put myself in a vulnerable position. So that came to mind. And then I remember dating a guy, and he had said something like, he had mentioned something about my body, and I'm curvy. So I have boobs, a butt, and I have a waist. So more of an hourglass figure. And so when I realized that means I'm the safety in the storm, people come to me naturally. I'm a natural counselor. I'm highly sympathetic and intuitive. And that's where I live. And that's what made me the happiest. And I realized that the right person will be attracted to this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it'll be a maximum attraction, and it's nothing bad, and it doesn't have to make me feel bad about myself. And it was actually the part of me that I liked the most about myself, like the intuitive part. And here it was packaged in that kind of physicality.
Yeah.
So that just really went, oh, okay, not a problem.
And then you become thankful. You're like, this is a vehicle. Thank you for this vehicle. It's not a burden that we got bestowed upon us because we're unworthy in a last life or something. Like it's so hard to get into a space of radical acceptance of our physicality. It's in this culture, at least.
Yes. I always thought, well, what was it? In the Renaissance age, the more Rubenesque woman, like you see them lying naked and pale, and they have nice, soft, doughy tummies. And
Yeah. Yeah. And that was gorgeous.
Yeah. And that's not what our social norm is, at least in our culture. So
yeah. But in reality, there's men that crave everything, and there's women that crave everything. Like, you just have to find your match.
Exactly. And it still is that warm place to be embraced,
Yes. Yeah. Mm.
So that was my big aha. One of the other things is what we call alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
And it addresses your preferences and what you can tolerate as far as neatness or messiness, or what you can tolerate in others. And we talk about it in ore, like O-R-E, so gold, silver, or copper. So you can be gold, silver, or copper, or a combination of those. Golds are fussy, meticulous, inflexible, highly refined, and they tend to have a smaller group of friends because they don't tolerate people outside of their range as much. Silvers are neat, flexible, practical, durable, adaptable. So a gold, I dated a gold. So it's kind of funny to see it in a guy for some reason, but it shouldn't matter. His closet, every shirt, of course, they're all, in my mind, facing the same direction. All the blue shirts, all the white shirts, all the pants, everything was super organized. You open his bathroom drawers, everything had a place. All of his pictures on the counters, I would just turn them to see what he would do. And how long it would take. Or I used the other bathroom and he didn't like it. He said, yeah, I noticed either that I didn't hang the towel back up the way he liked it or something. So, and he was super finicky, like, I wash my car every week. Well, he didn't have kids. He hadn't been married, so he didn't have to like flex as much.
Yeah.
So, and then silvers, it's good to have silver no matter where you are because it does make you more flexible. And then coppers are natural, low maintenance, and organic. Now silvers, and this is totally me, you will have piles on your desk. So maybe the right-hand side is for filing and the left-hand sides are bills, or you might have stuff on your countertop. And if somebody says they're going to be over in 20 minutes, you open the drawer, you shove everything in the drawer, you dust it. So it looks beautiful because you don't want people to know that's how you really live. And then when they leave, those have to come out because you know exactly where everything is.
Yes.
So, and then coppers, low maintenance, organic. Think dreadlocks. I always kind of think of beach bums, surfer dudes who wear shorts and t-shirts, and a lot of them might work in construction or in warehouses. They can go into third world countries really easily and thrive and help people in that way. A gold can never go into a third world country. They'll become physically ill because
You told me that. You said, Jenny, you cannot go to a third world country or you will get ill. And
yeah,
is like, this shows my ignorance, but is Belize would be a third world country, right?
I think so, except that's pretty.
I just recently went to Belize and I got so violently like motion sick because our hotel was like a little over 2 hours from the airport that I vomited like through 3 airports trying to get home. It was like a 13-hour travel day and it was the sickest I can remember being. I remember thinking I'll never be able to be old because I was so frail walking, like I was shaking walking through the airport, like not even like in the mind state where I could ask for help because I just I couldn't think for myself. But I remembered that comment that was like, she told me never to go to a third world country because I won't be able to deal with the poverty because it will affect my nervous system. And it's like, it does, it pains me to see pain. And not that everyone in poverty is in pain. I do have the awareness to know that there are some people that live very beautiful, happy, simple lives, like in the Philippines and like all over. And that's not what I'm saying, but there's pain and poverty and drugs and all this stuff that you can feel in certain areas. And it does physically hurt my spine.
And you are compassionate. So people who are compassionate feel other people's pain. I don't feel other people's pain. I'm sympathetic. So it hurts my heart. It doesn't hurt my body. Like you could compassionate, someone has a stomach ache, you'll feel it in your stomach. You'll feel it wherever they're having pain. I just feel it in my heart. It's like, oh, that's it,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So these things are important. My sons were out of range for me. So their rooms were complete. They were copper silvers. And so we have a chart. It looks like I don't know if you can see this chemical chart. No, you can't see that. But it looks like a chemistry table.
Yeah.
And you can only be certain boxes apart from somebody. So 3 on either side, you can spend 24/7 with somebody. 7 on either side, you can spend 8 hours a day. 12 on either side, you can spend 3 hours. So my kids were outside of that range. So
Is that like part of the divine order is our family members are 12 boxes away? They're like, yeah, figure this out.
Yeah. So the management style was,
Mm.
if you want to live in a pig pen, that's going to be your room. I'm not going to clean your room. If it stinks and there's clothes everywhere, that's up to, they were teenagers, they're capable. That's up to you. I'm not doing it, but you have to have your door closed. They used to come in the front door, lay their BMX bikes down in the living room, like in the entry. And it was like, okay, boys, do you like me yelling at you? No. I said, all right, I need this room to be beautiful and peaceful. All you have to do is put your bikes in the garage and take your backpacks into your room. Then I'll never yell at you about this, So, and now they're both great and married and keep a really nice house. So, but this is the number one reason for relationship failure. So you can be totally in love with a man or a woman, and if you have a higher alchemy, the lower alchemy will drive you nuts. They don't put things away. So you have to create a space where they can have that, so that you're not nitpicking them constantly, because then they don't want to be around you.
Of course.
You have to create a space for that. It can impede on vacations. So one person might love going camping in Mexico, and the spouse or a significant other has a higher alchemy and would hate doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can drop your spouse off at a 4 or 5 star hotel while you go camping and both are happy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can come to some middle ground where you're both served in a nice way. But it's important to know so you can make concessions.
And like, as you're saying that, I kind of remember this conversation now that it's being brought back up, but it's not something that stayed with me. But I don't think it stayed with me because my husband and I are probably very similar. We really do live in a very similar manner and have the same desires when it comes to travel. And
except you won't be returning to Belize probably.
No, that was for a spiritual retreat. And okay. I am so happy I did it. It was a wonderful experience. I don't at all mean to take away from that experience, but I do remember you saying that. And I was like, I think she's onto something. I really do. I've always been drawn to Europe. I want to be around the buildings, the churches, that European aesthetic. I mean, that's what really lights me up. Interior trim is my thing. I really do appreciate a well trimmed anything, ornate crown molding, the stair the banister, all of it is, I probably should be on the East Coast somewhere because there's a lot more attention. You remember being in Colorado and it's just hard to find true craftsmen, but we did okay.
You did really well, but that's because you made the choices.
Yeah, I drew everything. Remember, I was drawing everything. It's are you an architect? No. Are you a designer? No. Are you I'm nothing. I just want this. Can we do this? I taught myself.
I remember your entry and the tiles that you wanted and the pattern that you wanted. It was gorgeous.
Thank you. We didn't end up doing that, but if I should share after this releases the drawing, because these tiles were very ornate and I not only drew them to scale, but I drew the individual design of the tile, and there was 75 tiles. So I don't know what I was manic about designing this house, and it was all I could do. All my time went to this house.
You did a great job. Great job. The last aspect that we talk about are energy centers. And that's how we download information and connect with the world around us. We have all 4 of them. They are emotional, moving centered, instinctual centered, and intellectual centered. And the results are all in numbers. So you want to be between a 7 and a 12 in all of them.
Okay.
And it's like the wheels on a car. So if one wheel is at a 7 and one wheel's at a 12, there's not going to be that much deflation that it's hard to move down the road. But if you have a 5 in one tire and a 13 or 14 in another, you're not moving through life smoothly, and it makes it rough, and it can drain your energy or create imbalance in your being. And what I find is people, when life is good, these centers are pretty close in numbers. I'm always I'm highest on my emotional center, which makes sense because I work with people.
Yeah.
Yours went up from the last time.
Okay.
Your instinctual center's a little bit inflated, but instinctual is everything that feels good, sounds good, smells good, tastes good. It has all about the senses. And if somebody is instinctually centered and they go to a meeting or school and they hear the ballast buzzing, other people can tune it out, but you can't.
I absolutely can't.
It'll drive you insane.
Yeah.
Or if you're in a room and you hear a clock ticking or like motor sounds, you can't listen.
It's overwhelming. And I do think it's heightened because now being trained to be a medium, everything in the spirit world is very subtle. And so it comes to you in this manner that isn't the same in the physical world. So even when you're not working, your sentences are so heightened that now the things that are in the physical world feel like a beating drum. I was just on an airplane and this woman, I think she might have had like a tic or something, or it was for her nervous system, but she was shuffling cards and like hitting them on the thing and then like over like thousands of times, like the whole flight shuffling, and I about went insane, like insane. It was so unpleasant for me. I couldn't explain the irritation I was experiencing.
I feel it. I mean, I would have just said, can you please stop that? But in my head, I'd be going, stop
ahead of me and all the way to the window. So it was like, so out. I mean, probably I should have just stood up and like, just excuse me, like, I'm going to have an episode. It's just interesting that you bring that up right now, because I just experienced that. But I do think it's part of working with energy. Yeah. Is why it probably raised.
Well, and your vibration's high and you're used to listening, and you need to listen where it's quiet.
Yeah, I do.
You know, it's hard to listen with staticky noise, lots of noise. Yeah. So yes, so that's a bit inflated, but that's because you're doing what you're doing. Everything else is really, really balanced. So that's awesome.
So if they get this assessment and let's say one of those is like really out of balance, like how do you fix it? Like, do you have advice like in the assessment with you on this is what you need to do to balance this area, or like how when they leave you, do they have tools for betterment?
No, I just say, okay, that's it, go. No.
I know. See you later.
You're probably a little overwhelmed. We'll talk with you later. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yes. And in those, yes, let's talk about moving center, because oftentimes that one's really low.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is going for a walk. That's the easiest thing. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to swim laps. You don't have to do anything difficult. You just need to move.
Yeah. So
even if you're sitting at home and you got one of those foot pedally things, or a trampoline, or you actually have an exercise bike, something where even if you love watching TV, you can just be getting the circulation going. I feel like I'm talking to myself right now because I've fallen off the exercise thing. Intellectually centered. So say somebody's moving centered and they break their leg and they can't move. It can be really, really frustrating for them. So what you want to do is feed one of the other centers. So either people don't read books as much anymore, but something to read or research. Drawing, like they have so many great coloring books now, and either doing mandalas or pets, taking the time to have that fine motor skill and being fed by colors, it can calm the system. That's an instinctual an instinctually centered thing to do. If people are low emotionally, that's a little bit more challenging, because if they're low emotionally, they're typically higher intellectually. So intellectually centered people that have that as a higher one, they don't mind hugging, but it has to be their choice. So for me, I've learned to say, may I give you a hug? Because before I just go, oh yeah, and they're like this, like, you can just feel, or the old church, barely lean in.
Yeah, that little pat on the back.
Yeah.
Tap, tap, get away.
And you may not touch my friend, which, you need to honor their space. But if it's their choice, so if you have a mate where one is emotionally centered and one's intellectually centered, you might say, will you please hug me? And instead of them just embracing you, they'll ask why. Because they want to know why.
Yep.
Intellectually centered people ask a lot of why questions. Or how come you're doing that? Or it's just like, can be really irritating. I had a mate like that. It was just like, oh my God, I guess I'll just go someplace else for this.
And I wonder if we attract certain things to bring us to the awareness of, like if I'm in a place of wanting to be held and soothed and my partner doesn't respond, is that the lesson then that I need to learn how to self-soothe and be more self-reliant and not lean on others for support? Or, you always wonder like why we're attracted to somebody that could potentially be the opposite of what we think we need at the moment.
Well, because there's so many other things besides that are attractive, but
Yeah.
That is really important though, to know that. For me, I have to, whatever their combo is, I actually pray differently now because I have this information. So they absolutely have to have a vanity feature. It doesn't have to be higher than mine. I actually don't want a guy's to be, mine's high. I don't want it to be higher because they'll be they'll be prettier than me and they can't be. But I want somebody who will say, oh, you look really beautiful, or let's go shopping.
Appreciates it.
Yeah. So to me, that's one thing that's super important.
Yeah.
And that I want somebody who has monetary discretion. So that lives in a couple places, one that's the same. As you get older, you want somebody who's more of a like type because it's easier. And when you're younger, the opposites do attract and can have more fireworks. So it just kind of depends on where you are in life, where that is.
I can feel that for sure.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions or?
Well, I obviously could talk about this all the time because it's really, really awesome. And I know we've talked about me. So I hope you guys, if you're still listening, thank you for all of your attention learning about me. But what I really, really would love for you to give the listeners a little taste of is a little bit more about what the physicality may say. So then they can kind of apply it to themselves. Like if somebody is a little bit more short and petite, what that means, or is there any way to do that? Or is it kind of a formula that's hard to offer any information?
Someone who's short and petite can actually be a queen, because one of the questions, are you 5'7" or taller? Yes or no? And then the next question is, do people think you're taller? Do people perceive you as taller than you are? My mom was, as she would always say, I'm 5 feet and 3/4 of an inch.
Oh, cute.
But she was a queen.
Yeah.
So you can be small. It's kind of more attitude. Yes. But when typically, there are some things I can share. If you carry your weight in your tummy, like a full stomach, not abdomen, a full stomach, from under your breast to, that generally means that you are, you have a processor that's very absorptive, and that you hold a lot of information. So an example, a family had several kids who were really slender and one daughter that was big, and she felt horrible. And how do the parents deal with this? Well, it's like an elephant. An elephant holds knowledge. And she could lose weight, but if these particular body type loses weight, they lose information.
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. The memory bank goes away, and these people, they put things in categories or in boxes in their brain so that they can retrieve them. And people will oftentimes go for that to them and ask them for help rather than looking it up, because they know, like, and trust them, and they, you know, like interacting with them. They're also very jovial and fun to be around. Bruce Willis is a Joe. So I'm just trying to think of examples I can give of.
Yeah, I love the celebrity references about people in their profiles, like with human design or even astrology sometimes.
Yeah. If you have a receding hairline, that also can fit into that particular space.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody, I had a girlfriend and her hairline was to here. So she wore her hair back a lot, but you know, her whole life, her family would tease her because she had this big forehead. Well, it's kind of like that alien big brain thing. They tend to have a fuller forehead. And so wearing bangs or wearing your hair, parted on the side and across can, if it bothers you, can help minimize that. But being able to own that that's something that gives you great value in the world is important to know. People have a very square jaw, like G.I. Joe. I always think of Conan O'Brien, and his head is like square. Of course, he wears his hair up too, but his head is super square.
Yeah.
And that lives in the most energetic spoke. It is a doing spoke. They take the fastest route from point A to point B. It's like lead, follow, or get out of my way. They can hurt people's feelings, and they don't do it really intentionally, and they don't care. Their thought is, why are you so upset? It's the truth. So they won't soften the truth. They're all about truth and justice and loyalty. So you have military, a lot of the military, which is interesting because G.I. Joe is always depicted with this very strong jaw. So military, fire department, police department, some kind of corrections. For women too, women, it's very apparent. It just is softened in who they are because of the feminine and different hormones and things like that.
Yeah.
So
as you evolve in life, like you said, let's take the assessment again. Like, let's just say that somebody was very chiseled and, had some descriptors, and then fast forward 30 years and they are like totally opposite in appearance. Does that mirror then what is going on inside too?
It does change. It does change. One of my friends, when she was younger, had that square jaw, was really absorptive, we call it Lou, but it's very feminine and pale. And so her energetic spoke has gone away as she's aged. She's about 68 right now. And it's just like, nope, that's gone away now. So she relies more on her processing spokes and on her more artistic spokes than that. She has to go to a different place to get it done now. Whereas before it's just like, I'm going to push through and I have tons of energy. And now it's like, no. Yep. So that can make a difference. If you're sick, your profile will change. Your alchemy will change. You won't be as refined because you don't have the energy to be. So if you're sick, if you have an addiction, there's a certain thing that will show up on this that shows addiction. And if you have children, your alchemy will change because, especially depending on what age they are, but diapers and teenagers can be challenging. So yeah, it does change. Injury. And we also have something, it's called it looks like an old alarm clock, the kind with the two little things on top and go. So there are different things that we can expect at different phases of life. So 0 to 3, it's like a shadow of what you're going to be. your hair color, your eyes, the face of, they're all pretty pudgy, but you can just get a glimpse. And then from 3 to 7, they're becoming more alive and opinionated and out of the alpha brainwave states,
Yeah.
entering into other brainwave states, so they're not as absorbing as much.
Yes.
7 to 12, their alchemy is going to come in more. 12 to about 17 or 18, which is interesting because at 16 you get your driver's license. That's when the features become a little bit more fixed, those things that drive you and feed you and move you forward. 21 to 30, you're supposedly, well, at 18 in our culture, you're an adult, or 21. But you can't expect a 21-year-old to be as oftentimes, not all the time, as mature as a 30-year-old. And a lot of times parents have a very high expectation of someone in their early 20s, and it's not realistic. And it puts a lot of pressure on kids. They're really there to experiment at that phase of life.
Yeah.
So whether it's traveling, school, buying a house, getting married, having kids, it's a time of change. When you're in your 30s, we call it the interval. It's like a midlife crisis. There's a ton of change.
Yeah, that's when we met.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like dead center in my 30s, like shit's hitting the fan. What am I doing wrong? Help me.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I think it's the new midlife crisis.
Like, it is. And you reach about 42, like 37, 38, they call it the eye of the storm. And it's just like, okay, I can catch my breath. Everything's cool. And then you start evolving really, really, really fast again until you're all the way. But 42, it's like you are who you are. You own who you are. You express yourself differently. You learn different skills. You might like change careers because it's not in alignment with who you are. 52 to 65 is paying it forward. So out speaking and talking and doing and giving of yourself. 66 to 70 something is being liberated because people are done with work typically and they can travel. Then 70 to 84, people come to you, and then you go back to this generic state. So when you're babies and when you're old, when you look at them, you often can't tell if they're male or female. And your instinctual center is really pronounced because you want to be dry and fed and comfortable, and your emotional center is really pronounced because you need support. So we're complicated. It's like, I think about it, we go, we're all born, generally speaking, male and female. We all have the same parts. But if you think of every single spirit who has come in to learn their lesson on this earth, and we're all kind of like bouncing off each other like molecules, the best we can do is love and honor ourselves.
Yeah.
Know who we are, know what makes you feel good, know what places and spaces and people to avoid gracefully, and how to ask for what you want unapologetically.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I really do hope that this lands for you guys that are listening, because I cannot say enough how much this assessment really did shift the way I viewed myself. It really did change my life. Like I know I have said that, and I know I've told you, but it made me wake up. That's what it did. It made me look at myself and say, this isn't going to change. So we're either going to accept it and be who I've always kind of wanted to be, or we're going to keep being in denial and shame and hiding and playing the part of what I thought I was supposed to do.
And shame, on Dr. David R. Hawkins' scale of emotional frequency, it is the lowest vibration. It's like a 20, and the highest vibration 7 something. So shame is horrible. It's horrible to say shame on you. You should be ashamed, or having shame, because you can only attract a like vibration. So if you're ashamed or angry, have all these lower emotions, that's what you're going to continue to draw into your life.
Yeah.
So our goal is to be at courage or above because courage is a willingness to change, love, peace, joy, happiness. We're going to be going like this because we're humans. But when we dip, we have to, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Fix that and keep your eye on the prize, because whatever you're focusing on, you're attracting. So
am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired?
It's HALT. It's an AA, an acronym.
Yeah, I love that. And I do think that like my moods shift the most because there's something in me that forgot to get hungry. So I like forget to eat. Like I will just go through my day and do my thing. And then I'll just become a raging bitch and be like, oh, I didn't eat lunch or actually anything. And I don't want to be that way. It's just, I forget. And so my mood changes because I'm hungry.
Yep. I wish I could forget.
I know it's not great, but my husband is always just like, get a cracker or a piece of cheese, like go away until you fix this.
My friends used to carry food for me.
Oh,
like throwing it to an animal, here, eat this.
We need you back. Eat. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Beth, I know that we talked about you doing the assessment for the people listening. So please explain where they can find you, how they would sign up. I will also put this information in the show notes, and then what it costs to do this and what that looks like, just so people can kind of wrap their mind around how to work with you.
Yes. The URL that the assessment is located is theultimatelifetool.com. theultimatelifetool.com. You'll sign on and you'll say on the top, there'll be a black box that says take the test, and you click on that. And there's a special code, which Jennifer will share with all of you. It's DGB for Dr. Beth Golden VIP. So DBG VIP. You'll be able to take the assessment without charge that way. There's two things we can do. We can schedule a 10-minute overview, which is not enough time, but it will give you, these are your styles, this is what's driving you, this is your alchemy, these are your energy centers, and this is how much, this is your polarity. So you'll have all that information, but that's pretty cursory. The other option, and I would advise taking the assessment and then I can follow up with you, is a 60 to 90 minute portal. We create slides. So if you're visual, it really helps cement the information. We have relaxed time. We're not rushing through anything. Plenty of questions. And then I provide a 7 to 9 page review of everything that we've done. That's typically $250, but for our listening guests today, I like all the 222, or 333. So it's only $222. And I think that's a fabulous deal to have those aha moments and then have something tangibly that you.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you for that. And I think that is a beautiful price. And looking at my assessment right now, it is information that I am so thankful that I have. Because even referencing back the things that helped me then, now I'm looking at other things. Like when we were talking about the alchemy, like that makes a lot of sense for when I travel with friends or when I go on work trips. There's some things that I just need to have at the forefront of my mind that are non-negotiable. And it tells me right here what those things are.
What kind of hotel?
Yeah.
You're a fancier hotel than other people.
Yeah. Yes.
It's comfortable.
Okay. Well, Beth, I would love to just cheers you. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me. You're such a blessing, and such a blessing to reconnect with you.
Oh, it is. I wish that you lived closer. I'd love to have a glass of wine and chat with you in person and give you a big hug. I do remember you gave great hugs.
Yes. Well, maybe we'll plan something where I can come out and just do this for your friends.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
That would be
all right.
really
Well, happy Friday to you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for listening. Please reach out to Beth, and I love you.
Thanks. Bye.